guys? Okay, I think I opened a lot of times in the story. I did the last time too, about commitment. So this is a story that just was a strange happening, but usually happens multiple times. Some of you guys might know parts of this, but usually, almost always, I'll say almost always, when Andrew and I go to Sam's Club to buy stuff, something weird happens. And I don't know if he agrees with me, but it usually happens to Andrew, and I just get to witness it. But almost always when we go, something strange happens. So there was this one time about a year ago, that was probably the weirdest day, and we got in the car afterwards, was just like, what just happened? So we had no idea why this happened within a 10-minute period. But we showed up, we were trying to get new cards because our cards, we didn't have any, and then they printed the wrong name on Andrew's, and so we kept shopping, and he's going to go back and get one later. And as we're going around, there was this older woman that really wanted Andrew's help and did it in a very nice way, I guess you could say. Really, this woman was like hitting on Andrew, trying to get him to help him or help her reach or something. And then we walked around some more, and this is all within one day also. And there was this little girl that kind of got in our path when we had this giant cart. So we were getting like cafe drinks, a bunch of stuff, maybe for fall retreat. So we had this huge cart, and Andrew kind of like plays with her for a second of like, just jokingly, and we go around her, and she loved it apparently because she followed us after that. So she starts kind of following us around. We kind of sneak away from her and lose her for a second, but then we go to checkout, and all of a sudden we turn around, and here's this little girl, and she's standing right here, and her mom is a ways away, like too far away to leave their child with a stranger, kind of too far away. And she's just talking to us, and Andrew leaves after a while, but this person at Sam's Club comes up to us and says, starts asking us about this little girl, assuming it was our child. We said, we have no idea who this is, and we are not together. And so then she proceeded to, in a very judging way, say that it is not right for me to be out with someone that's not my husband at Sam's Club. Because that's, yeah, at Sam's Club. So, and then after that, after saying we're co-workers at a church, everything was fine. But then she continued to proceed to tell me that how I could kidnap this child, because the child trusts me and is standing next to me and saying what I could do to kidnap her. And I'm like, or she can go to her mom, and we're trying to check out, and as we walk out, the little girl follows us still. And we realized we forgot to pay for some water, and so we turn around, and the mom is screaming the little girl's name, and finally like drags her away, and they leave. And as we're trying to leave, we notice that they can't find their car, so Andrew and I hide in the doorway of the exit of Sam's until they find their car, so that way this little girl doesn't try to jump in the car with us. So I genuinely thought she was going to try to do that. And we get in the car, and both of us were just like, what just happened? Because that was just a lot all at once. And things like that happen almost every time we go to Sam's. One time we found a dead mouse in the van on our way to Sam's.
That's really fun.
You know that story? It was disgusting. Something always happens. But that was one of those stories, or each of those moments was something weird that will always be stuck in my brain because it just raised the question afterwards, like, what in the world just happened to us? Like, why did this happen? And have you guys ever had a moment like that where it's just such a strange thing happened, a weird moment, and you're like, I can't explain what that was. Like, have you guys had those?
Oh yeah.
Well, those normally are the ones that, they're stories that we enjoy sharing with other people, right? Like, we come back and we're like, you cannot believe what just happened to us. Like, I think we got in the car and immediately text Graham this long list of, guess what just happened at Sam's Club? And we do that, I think, almost every time we go to Sam's Club now, something that happened. But there's a reason on why those are the stories we want to tell. I mean, because they're different. They're not normal. It's something that just sticks out from your normal day, and so it creates something that's funny to listen to. And really, if we just told our normal everyday events, it would not be as entertaining. Would you agree? Like if I just came up here and I was like, hey, guess what? This morning I woke up and I got dressed, I brushed my teeth, and I drank some coffee.
That's so interesting.
Did it make the coffee taste bad?
That's a cool story, right? What?
Did it make the coffee taste bad?
It didn't. And so these stories that are just weird are the ones that our culture and our world just kind of craves, that we just want to listen to. It's the TV shows, the books, just the different stories that are different. They're weird. They're not normal. And one story that I heard a lot of people say they think is the strangest story actually is the story of Jesus. And that's coming from people that aren't Christian. I mean, I think it's kind of a weird story, but I believe in Jesus. But these are from people that aren't Christian. They don't follow him as their God. And they still see it as Jesus was a weird dude. Do you guys agree? Yeah. He was. If you look at some of the stories and things that he did, he was a really weird guy. He did incredibly weird and different things in his culture. He talked to people that no one else talked to. He touched people that were contagious and sick, and he healed them, which is incredible. But the fact that he even just was touching them and talking to them was strange at that time. He ate dinner with people that were people saw as like stealing money, like tax collectors. No one liked them. He threw tables in a church. Strange. He was just a really weird guy. And we believe in him as our God. But if we follow him in the way that we say that we do, and if we are being Jesus to other people the way that we say we do, then we should be looking weird like Jesus. If we're supposed to be an imitation of Jesus, we're supposed to be the face of him to other people, and when he was here, he was different, very different from the culture around him. He was weird. He was something extraordinary. He was unexpected. He did things, said things that constantly surprised people all the time. He was supernatural. So he was weird. And so if we are looking to follow God in the way of how he lived, then that means we need to be weird. And so this is something that Jesus actually talks a lot about at the beginning of his ministry. In the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5, he brings up about this, of being something different, of standing out and being weird. And so if you guys want to read it on the screen or on your paper, you guys might have even heard the scripture before. And it says, "You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father." So when we do what Jesus did, when we have the confidence to stand tall and shine the light of God, when we follow in his steps, this is what we become. We become weird for God. And in a world that does not do this, it's going to make you look different. Whenever you do things that Jesus did, when you love to the extent of how Jesus loved, you're going to look different. If you have joy in circumstances when most people wouldn't, you're going to look different. When you forgive someone, and normally people wouldn't forgive in that situation, you're going to look different. You're going to look weird. And we hear this a lot in the church. If you grew up in the church, you probably hear it a lot. I did when I was in children's ministry and then growing up in youth, of how we're supposed to stand out. Like Christians are supposed to be different. Like we know that, and you guys probably have heard that passage before, but I think there's something in there that we miss greatly. Like we completely miss part of the lesson of what Jesus is trying to teach us in that passage. And I realized it a few weeks ago when I was actually on vacation with my family in Florida. And I was just reminded, I kept thinking about the series. We already knew what we were going to be talking about through the year, and I was thinking about tonight and how to explain this to you, and thinking something happened where God just really opened my eyes. Not always in a good way. Well, I mean, it was good because it changed me, but one of those hard, like, convicting moments. And while we were in Florida, as an example of leading to what we miss on here, when we were there down in Florida, we met a lot of people. Like normally when I go on vacation, I don't talk to the strangers around me. But on here, like we met the people that were in the house across the street. We're all Methodist pastors from New York, and they were a family, and they were down to have a wedding in their family. So it was really cool. So we watched their wedding and talked to them, and they were incredible at singing. And so we got to know them a little bit. We got to know other people that were around. My family, we rented a house down there. There were 23 of us in one house. It was very chaotic, very loud, lots of little children and loud adults, really. And it just echoed, and not relaxing, but still a good beat. And one of the days when we were there, my two cousins were there, and one of my sisters, all my sisters were with us, but at the certain time, it was the four of us, and this man comes up and starts talking to us, just because, I guess, I don't know, wanted to talk to someone, and you can tell that something was upsetting him. So one of my cousins turns to them and says, like, hey, are you okay? Is anything going on? Can I help you? And he just like unloads, like floodgates open. I've never seen anyone just like completely dump every problem they had on a complete stranger, but this guy just unloads everything of what he's dealing with. And he asks a lot of questions about God. He asked what we believe in. He was asking about Jesus. And my family turned to me because they saw it as, oh, you work for a church, you can answer these questions. So in that small instance, I thought, oh, this will be fun. Like, I was excited to get to tell this guy what I believe in, who Jesus is, and just evangelize to him when he's going through all of this stuff and asking these questions. So I was excited, and I kind of start talking to him, and all of a sudden, my cousins, who were louder than me, started talking over me. And at first, I was confused, but then I started listening to what they were saying, and they were giving really good answers. And then I felt bad in the fact that I was surprised, but it occurred to me that I know that they were Christians, and I know that they grew up in the church, and that they do attend church. I don't know how often, but I know that they go to a church. And I had never in my entire life talked about Jesus with my cousins. It never occurred to me that that was something that I was missing out on. I mean, 26 years, and I've never talked to my cousins about Jesus. And so I'm sitting there, and I just take a step back, because this was something that I could tell they really needed. And they just start talking about their belief in God. They're like flowing with these words of just love and acceptance of who Jesus Christ is. And it was a memory that will forever be buried in my heart. I hope so, at least. Because it was incredible to see that. But then I turned around and my sister, because this guy was asking questions, it made my sister start asking questions. Ones that she's brought it before, but something in this moment, she felt like she needed to talk about it again. We don't talk about Jesus that often, we do sometimes. I've shared a little bit about her, but she starts asking the same questions that this guy did. So I kind of back away because my cousins clearly got it covered and showing this guy love, and it was incredible to watch, but my sister's over here just having a really hard time dealing with this. And the fact that her two cousins and her sister are encouraging this guy, and she had no idea what to do. So we start talking, and she starts talking to me about stuff that's going on in her life, and she looks at me and she says, "You are a saint." And normally when I think of someone saying that, I think of an old person saying like, "Oh, you're such a good person." Like, that's kind of how I think of it when people say like, "You are a saint." But what she was really saying to me was, "You have a God, so you don't understand what I'm dealing with." Like, that's what she was telling me in that moment, and it hit me that in my family, they see me as a Christian, but they don't always see me as Jesus. And there is a difference in that. I mean, yes, as Christians we follow Jesus, but my family saw me as a church staff person. They saw me as someone that follows God. They see me as a Christian, but the things that I was doing to my family, the way that I wasn't really interacting with them, I was not being Jesus to them. I mean, my family members feel like they have to sometimes walk on eggshells around me because they think I might judge them because I'm a Christian. They think that they can't talk to me sometimes because I can't understand what they're going through, even though what my sister is dealing with, I've gone through before. But they saw it as, "You are a saint, so you can't understand what I'm dealing with." But Jesus did not live his life that way. Jesus went to people. People approached him. They would seek him out. They would call his name in crowds that way he could hear. And I mean, people went crazy because they just needed to be around Jesus and his love so much. That is who Jesus was, and I have not been that to my family. But even worse, what I can feel worse, was I was doing that to my cousins. What my family has done to me of saying that, perceiving me as I'm a Christian, but maybe I'm not Jesus to them, I did that to my cousins. I knew that they were Christian, but I didn't know that they were Jesus because we had never talked about it. We had never had a scenario where it came up. And in that evening, when we were talking, I went from seeing my cousins as, "Oh, they're just another Christian," to "They are Jesus in this moment," to this man. And with my sister, we went from maybe her seeing me as a goody two-shoes or as a saint, as the way that she put it. She saw me as a Christian to, she had an encounter with Jesus that night from the way that we connected, in the way that I was open with her and transparent, in the way that I showed her love. But in all of that, it raises the question, if people look at us, do they see us as Christians or do they see us as Jesus? Because sometimes I think in our head, we know that we believe in God. We know in our heart that we have faith. We know that we want to love everybody. We know that we want to treat people better. Like, we know that we're different because we know our faith. We know our God. But do the people around you know that you're different? If you went and asked your best friend, hey, am I just another Christian to you or am I Jesus to you? Would they say yes to Jesus? If you asked your third-hour teacher, am I Jesus to you? Would they say yes? If you ask the person that sits behind you in your fifth hour, first hour, in whatever class it is, if they see Jesus in you, would they say yes? If you ask your bus driver or one of your best friend's mom, if they see Jesus in you, would they say yes? Because that's the life that we are supposed to live. This is the part that I think we miss out. We met on this lesson. Can you go back to the scripture? In this lesson, Jesus is saying, stand out. Like, he is clearly saying that you are the light of the world, and we are the light of the world because we have God with us. And he's saying that you're a city on a hill, you are a light on a stand. And he's saying this in the sense of, like, you are going to be different. But he's saying so much more in that, because he's not only saying, like, hey, stand out and be different, but what Jesus is saying is be me. He's saying, be me. Be my love. Be my joy. Be his weird and different self that we study all the time. Be the story that is unexpected. Be the uncanny, the extraordinary story that someone maybe one day is going to go to someone else and say, you can't believe what this person did. Like, I don't understand. Or I can't believe that that just happened. The way that we look at Jesus and think that he is different, he is weird. Yes, he's different, but he's not just different because he's also God. He's different because he showed through his actions that he's different. And all he's saying in here is not just, hey, stand out. He's saying, be me. Be my light. Because whenever we do that, when we become this light of a lamp on a stand, maybe we start out as just one lamp on a stand, but if we shine that light, that might turn on a different light, which turns on a different light, and what one person being a light on a stand may turn into that giant city that shines bright on a hill. And so this is what question I want you guys to reflect on as we go on into tonight and into the school year. Ask the question, am I different? Are you different? And are you really? In our head we might think so, but ask someone. I actually went and asked people, which was very uncomfortable, to say, like, hey, am I just another Christian or am I Jesus to you? Created an interesting conversation with some of my family members, but it was one that needed to happen. Because I got to know, where was I not Jesus, and where was I? And then how can I change those little parts so that way I am different? That I am Jesus. I'm not just another Christian, but I'm Jesus to someone. And so this is the question that we're going to answer together through this school year. We're going to make this commitment, which if you were here 2 weeks ago, like the past couple weeks in our series talking about commit, making a commitment is going to bring an action. You go out and you actually do something when you make this commitment. And so together, we are going to be talking about this through the school year. The year of weird. We're going to try to be weird this year. And I don't mean this sense it doesn't always have to be just like, okay, that person's really strange, like, not always like that, but be uncanny. Be unexpected. Be something extraordinary that turns into a story where maybe someone leaves and it's just like, what just happened? Or even maybe you leave the situation and you say, what just happened? Like maybe that was God right there. That was crazy. Like I left that evening with my sister and this random man, I have no idea what his name was, just thinking, what just happened? I mean, God happened. But those are the moments, those are the weird, strange, and different moments that we need to strive for, because that is what shines that light to the world. And so I'm going to invite the worship team to come back up here. And I want to give you guys some time. Like, you guys can stay seated, listen to the words. You can stand and worship, but actually think about this question. Are you different? And when we go into small group, please be honest with each other. Like I was open with you and saying where my family saw my fallbacks. And for us here, we are family. We are going to be open with each other, and we can share about where are we not different and where are we different. How can we use each other as accountability? And so at the end of small group, after you guys talk through this, you're going to have that moment where you get to make this commitment together. You're going to make a commitment to be the light in the world, to be different, and to be weird. And so if you guys will bow your heads with me as we pray to God that He just shows us the truth. He shows us where we need to be weird. And for us to hold on to this, where do we need to be different? And actually think about, are we different? And so, Father God, we come to you today, being thankful in our hearts that we have been able to come into your presence to praise your name, to worship you, to, God, give you all the glory that we possibly can at this time. But God, our world is a world that craves something different. It doesn't want just normal, but it wants something different. And you, God, are the different that changes lives. You are the weird, the uncanny, the unexpected that brings love and joy and light into places where no one else is reaching. So God, as we go on today, please open our hearts and our ears so that we can listen to you and we can actually evaluate, are we different? Are we this light on this stand that you're calling us to be? Are we the city on the hill that your church is supposed to be? And so God, please show us, where do we need to be different? Where do we need to be weird? How can we be more of you? It's in your name